In downtown Manhattan, a distressed woman calls police from an apartment building. She's found her cousin, Fahim Saleh. He's been murdered.
The 911 caller stated that her cousin was found dismembered inside his apartment. She was really distraught and screaming and needed police to respond.
This video, provided by a neighbor, shows a threatening man. He's seen walking past a home holding an axe.
At the time of Fahim Saleh's murder, I was a detective, 3rd grade, working out of the Lower East Side 7th Precinct Detective Squad. As I was pulling up to the scene, I noticed a bunch of patrol vehicles, some cops, paramedics. A crime scene tape was set up. And we headed inside the building. Inside the lobby is the cousin, and she was very upset. She was crying. She's obviously very distraught. I wouldn't want to be in her shoes. To see a family member in that way, it must have been really shocking for her.
In the lobby, Detective Tedisco asks Fahim's cousin why she was visiting him.
The cousin worked for Fahim. She used to set up his meetings, so she was in constant contact with Fahim all the time. She wasn't able to get in touch with him for like a couple of days, so she decided to go to the apartment to look for him. After she discovered the body, she ran out of the apartment, making the 911 call to the police. We knew that we had to conduct a thorough interview with her to get more details on what she saw. So we asked patrol to stay with her while we go upstairs and take a look at the crime scene. The way the building's structured is when you get out of the elevator, you go directly into the apartment. So you would need a key fob in order to get into your apartment. We had the building super escort us up, and we exit the elevator. We walk into the living room. We see a torso on the ground with missing limbs, missing head, and missing legs. This torso had a t-shirt with cut-off sleeves and a pair of shorts. The victim appeared to just come back from jogging. At the foot of the torso, there was 4 construction bags. We happened to take a peek inside the bags, not to disturb the crime scene. Inside the bags, there was the head, the 2 arms, and the 2 legs. You won't want anyone to see something like that. It's very disturbing, very gruesome. It was probably one of the most gruesome scenes I've ever been involved with. Behind the construction bags, there was a lot of cleaning material on the ground. Ammonia, gloves, sponges, things of that nature. Near the body, we noticed a Makita battery-operated saw with blood on the blade. And on the couch, there was also a pair of scissors with some blood splatter on it also. What it tells me is that this person is evil. You know, for someone to not only just kill somebody, but then to plan to dismember a body, this person has to be a psychopath.
With so much evidence left in the apartment, Detective Tedisco wonders if the killer might still be close by.
We thought this job was not finished, so we searched the building. We couldn't find him. Time is ticking, and we had no idea who did this. It might have been a robbery, could have been a burglary, it could have been anything. So my first reaction was, this is going to be a tough case to solve. But we have to try to solve it as quickly as possible, because the suspect could be in the wind.
Andrew Ramos, working for a local news outlet, covers the story.
When the news first broke about this case, I was on the scene. I remember seeing every reporter from every news outlet in front of his apartment doing the same story, reporting from that scene and looking up at the apartment thinking like, this is horrible. This story just sent shockwaves across the city. It shook a lot of people because of the evilness that took place in that apartment.
We hear about a lot of cases, especially when we live in New York City. This one certainly was something that one noticed. The fact that someone not only committed the horrific crimes of the stabbing and the dismembering, but that it was done in the privacy of the victim's own home, where one is supposed to feel the safest, I think is what stood out the most in my mind.
As the details came out, it went from bad to worse. What goes through someone's mind to perform such heinous acts?
Why would the person who killed him also take the steps of dismembering him? The goal would be to dispose of the body so that the body's never found.
All eyes were on the NYPD to figure this out because it was a scary situation. The pressure was on the department to figure this out and figure it out quick.
We know it's going to be a high-profile case. There's going to be a lot of scrutiny, but you have to take your time and do it right. We had to try to get a reason why Fahim was killed. So we had to look into his whole background.
33-year-old Fahim Saleh was a tech visionary. Born to Bangladeshi parents, at high school he set up his first business and went on to found a series of tech companies around the world.
My name's Awad Saeed. I first met Fahim in 2010 when I started working for him at his company Tap Fury. Fahim as a boss was someone who was able to motivate and inspire and do it in a way where he brought out the best in you. And it was just so impressive that someone so young could inspire a group of people to all come together and do great work like that. And you could tell that everyone really enjoyed being there. But I think his real superpower was finding other smart people to work with and sharing his cleverness with them and really making 1 + 1 = 3. He had this aura around him, and those are the types of people you really do want to surround yourself with in life.
What really struck me about Fahim is that he was an immigrant. He was self-made. I mean, I think you see a lot of these tech CEOs who get that loan from dad. He did everything by himself. I think he definitely had a bright future ahead of him. He just seemed like he knew more than most.
Fahim was just overall a really good person, very generous. He had a lot of good friends, and they couldn't think of anyone that would want to hurt Fahim in this manner.
But somebody wanted Fahim dead. Detective Tedisco needs to know who and why.
What's the motive behind it? Could have been something money motivated. Was it a robbery? Could have been a burglary. Fahim was worth over $100 million. He was very successful. Could it be something to do with his success? We had to ask ourselves, could this have been a business deal gone bad? Could he have been killed by a competitor? We had so many questions, not many answers.
It reeked of someone who targeted him. He had money. He had wealth. He had a very nice apartment in downtown Manhattan.
Fahim's first big success was this app called Prank Dial. It's kind of in the name. You can send prank calls to your friends.
While using this app, you're being recorded and people don't know that they're being recorded.
It was all in good fun. You'd get a recording of the call you made, and it was massively successful.
It turned out to make him over $100,000.
But the app was open to abuse. In 2012, Kirk Eady, a correctional facility deputy director, used it to call people at work without their knowledge.
U.S. District Federal Court in Newark, former Hudson County Jail Deputy Director Kirk Eady was sentenced to 21 months in prison and 3 years probation for wiretapping charges.
After he was released, Kirk Eady tried to sue Fahim for $10 million because he said that he didn't know that it was illegal to record people on the phone. He lost everything. His reputation, his living. So perhaps Kirk Eady had a motive. But after looking into it, there was no evidence that Kirk Eady was involved in this crime.
Detective Tedisco looks into Fahim's other businesses. After the success of Prank Dial, Fahim diversified, setting up several companies in the developing world.
As his success grew, he started taking on bigger and bigger challenges and projects, and started some businesses all centered around logistics, whether that's deliveries or ride shares, back when no one else was really focusing on that.
Fahim had a ride-sharing company in Bangladesh called Pafea. And he also had a company in Nigeria called Gokada, which also was a ride-sharing company.
Detective Tedisco finds out that Gokada, Fahim's Nigerian business, had run into trouble. Alleging it was unsafe, the authorities had shut it down.
He was having some issues with the government there. The government didn't want him taking over the taxi industry in Nigeria.
Could Fahim have been killed by someone angry about Gokada's decline?
That was an area that we had to look into. Could have been somebody from Nigeria, like a hit person, and we were really concerned about that.
He was considered a pretty big tech giant in the developing world. Is it possible that Fahim Saleh was killed because a business deal went bad? Certainly that was possible.
The reality is that he was a prominent person involved in business in a lot of countries, and I think that can open the door for conspiracy theories, but ultimately he was trying to do good in a lot of the developing world.
I remember him speaking about how he was helping not only these drivers, but their families, and how he was not going to be able to provide this service to this app anymore. I believe he really cared about that community.
After looking into the background of the Gokada company, we didn't really find any evidence that this could be a Nigerian hit.
I know he was helping that community. It didn't make any sense that he would have someone angry at him to a point where they dismembered him.
With the foreign business angle looking like a bust, Detective Tedisco takes a look at the video footage recorded around the time of Fahim's death. It becomes clear that the murderer only had one route into the apartment.
We discovered that there was cameras inside the elevator. When you walk into the elevator, each floor would go into a different apartment. So the camera inside the elevator was essentially his front door camera. We were very excited to see what was on that footage, and we're hoping to see the suspect.
Detective Tedisco views hours of video footage. pays off when he finds the critical moment when a mysterious man steps into the elevator with Fahim.
We were anxious to see this video. It could tell us a lot. We see Fahim Saleh entering the elevator, and right behind him, we see a suspect dressed all in black. Because it was during COVID, the suspect had a full face shield on, his head covered, his hands were covered with gloves, and you couldn't see his face. And you could see Fahim say something to him. We don't know exactly what it was, because there was no audio in there. He looks at him, but he doesn't really respond. And as the elevator opens, Fahim starts to walk out. And if you look in the back of Fahim's shirt, you can see a light go on. And Fahim fall down to the ground. And on the floor, you can see a taser with a light on it. And the elevator door closes. And that's when the suspect actually stabbed him several times around the neck area to actually kill him. When we first saw this video, we were like, what are we really watching? The way he was dressed, using the taser, waiting for the suspect and following him into an elevator. He was very organized. He knew what he was doing. It gave us an indication that this was a planned attack. We were really concerned that this could have been a professional hit. But at this time, we have no idea who this masked person is, and we have to find that out.
Although the killer is masked, the video holds important clues to his identity. Forensic analyst Nick Barrero examines the footage.
An investigator looking at this video might be disappointed to see that the suspect has concealed his identity so well. But as a forensic analyst, when I look at this video, I still see a lot of detail that will ultimately help to identify this suspect.
Nick uses a technique called photogrammetry to establish the suspect's height.
To use photogrammetry techniques on this footage, we need to tell the software where this camera is in 3D space. We do that by indicating 3 axes in the footage: the x-axis, the y-axis, and the z-axis. The blue lines here indicate the x-axis on the ground plane. The green lines represent the y-axis. And lastly, we need to tell the software what the z-axis looks like, and that's represented by these orange lines. So now that the software knows where this camera is oriented in 3D space, we need to give the software a reference measurement to use for comparison purposes. In this case, we will use the height of this number 1 placard outside the elevator. A standard height for these placards is about 5 feet off the ground, or 60 inches. So we'll use that as our reference measurement. Now we go to a frame where the suspect is visible, and we can measure his height using this red line. If the reference measurement of that placard on the elevator is 60 inches, then that would mean the suspect's height is 64.5 inches, or 5 foot 4.5 inches tall. No matter how well a suspect thinks they're concealing their identity, if they're captured on video, we're still going to learn some very valuable information.
As Detective Tedisco and other officers continue to search through the building's security footage, they realize the killer doesn't exit the apartment using the elevator. Instead, he slips out using the emergency exit.
There's 2 separate staircases inside Fahim's apartment where you can go all the way down to the ground level, and that's the way he went out.
Footage from outside the apartment helps build a picture of the morning Fahim was murdered.
We were able to find an exterior camera that faces out into the street. This camera here We spent hours on this camera looking, see if we could capture anything. Fortunately, we were able to see the suspect walk by, and we paused it and we got a side profile. There you go. As you can see, he's still covered up. He has a hat on, he has sunglasses, and he has a mask on. The only identifying mark was the color of his skin and also his ear. This could have been easily missed. If you're watching this video and you're not really looking for him, you can blink and within a second, like right now, he walks by and he's gone. That's it. It took about a second and a half. If you weren't looking or you turned your head, we would have never got it. But we had some good detectives, and we were fortunate enough that the detective caught this.
Police print the image of the masked killer's profile and take it to Fahim's cousin and his sister.
So I just took the chance and just slid the picture in front of them and to see if they recognized him. And right away, they let out that gasp like, that's Tyrese.
Tyrese Haspel is not a hitman.
Yo, she's trying to seduce you, man.
Well known to the family, the 21-year-old handled many of Fahim's affairs for over a year, working as his PA.
Na 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 na. It's like Beauty and the Beast.
Until the two parted company.
It was someone he clearly trusted to handle his financials, handle his schedule, handle a lot for him personally. Fahim was giving him an opportunity to be part of something big, be part of his vision, be part of what he was building.
Detective Tedisco digs into Tyrese's relationship with Fahim.
Once the cousin and the sister told us about Tyrese, we started asking more questions about him. He was 21 years old. He was from Long Island, bright individual. He was hired to do odd tasks for him, like walk his dog, make appointments for him, maybe do some shopping for him. Tyrese had access to the apartment. He also had access to a lot of his business accounts and a lot of his personal accounts.
But Fahim had misjudged Tyrese.
He was eventually let go because he was stealing money. We learned from the family that Tyrese had stolen $95,000 from Fahim through fake business accounts that he used through PayPal. He would change a letter or a number, and he would look just like the business account, but it was actually going into his own account. Fahim found out, but he didn't want to go to the police and get Tyrese in trouble. He didn't want to ruin his life by getting him arrested, so he didn't call the police.
Most people would call the police. Most people would want their money back immediately.
The fact that Fahim didn't immediately go to the police, I think it speaks to who he was and his character. The fact that even though he had been wronged so badly, he was still willing to work something out.
Fahim had his attorney draw up a contract for Tyrese to pay him back each month a certain amount of money, which Tyrese agreed to and signed the contract. But Fahim didn't realize that Tyrese was paying him back with money that he was still stealing from Fahim. It was learned that Tyrese was actually stealing way more money than Fahim thought he had stolen. It was learned that it was closer to $400,000.
If Tyrese is the man behind the mask, Detective Tedisco will need to prove it.
After learning what Tyrese did, that gave us a motive and made him a suspect. But we had to prove that he committed the crime. We just kept digging and digging and digging and gathering more and more evidence. We subpoenaed his phone, which means we could track his movements. We knew where he was, but we didn't make the arrest yet. We wanted to wait for the district attorney to give us the okay, where we had enough evidence to go pick him up. We worked closely with the district attorney's office. They were able to get access to Fahim's business accounts. We also were checking his credit card statements and his purchases.
The records show that Fahim's credit card was used by the suspect the day after the murder.
We found that he actually purchased the cleaning material at a Home Depot in Manhattan. He purchased the cleaning items, the construction bags. Then he returned and attempted to continue dismembering the body and get rid of it.
While the receipts aren't proof, they suggest that if Tyrese did kill Fahim, he took 2 days to cut up the body and clean the crime scene.
It still wasn't enough. We needed the smoking gun. We needed something bigger to tie him to the murder of Fahim.
Detective Tedisco goes to the security footage again.
We continued watching video. We noticed that the suspect appears to be vacuuming the elevator. He appears to be cleaning something up. It was very strange to see a killer bring his own hand vac to a crime scene and vacuum the crime scene up.
It turns out that the masked man was picking up tiny paper markers known as anti-felon identifiers, or aphids, which are released when a taser fires. Each aphid carries a unique serial number.
There was no way he got all of them. So we went back and searched ourselves, see if we could find anything. And we were able to define one right at the edge of the elevator on the molding.
This aphid has the potential to directly tie Tyrese to Fahim's murder. So Detective Tedisco sends the serial code to the manufacturer, hoping they have a record of who purchased the weapon. And there's other evidence revealed on the elevator camera.
This suspect obviously had a plan. This was not a spur-of-the-moment type of crime, but there are things that people don't think about that could potentially be used to identify this suspect. I've enhanced the brightness and contrast in this video. If we zoom in on the collar of the suit jacket, we can see there's a crease or a fold under the collar here that may be identifiable later if this jacket is found in the suspect's closet. There are also a few frames here where we get a pretty good view of the front of the suit jacket and the buttons, their placement, and their style on the front of the coat. We can also take a closer look at the suspect's bag here. The zipper, the way that the buckles attach the handle to the bag. It looks like there's a pull tab attached to the zipper. All of these unique details could potentially be used to identify this bag later. But the most unique detail in this video are these boots. They would be immediately identifiable if they're later found in the suspect's possession.
Despite the killer's efforts to disguise his identity, there are a number of unique identifiers in the elevator footage.
We were able to calculate the suspect's height. We were able to see the suspect's unique boots, some unique characteristics about his clothing and about his bag. These details aren't much to go on, but when somebody is completely covered like this could make the difference in the case and ultimately help to convict a killer.
Reviewing time codes on all the video footage, Detective Tedisco pieces together a timeline of the masked man's movements. He starts on the morning of the day that Fahim was killed.
On that morning, very early in the morning, he was able to get entrance into the lobby, but he wasn't able to access the elevator because he needed the key fob. So what he did was he waited around the lobby for many hours. You could see him in the corner lurking.
He tries multiple times to get into Fahim's apartment. Without success. So he waits in the lobby for Fahim to return from his run.
It's hard to imagine the type of person that is capable not of stealing $400,000, but of thinking that the only solution to protecting your crime is to commit such an incredibly violent crime to an individual that really just tried to help you.
Finally getting access to the elevator, he kills Fahim in cold blood.
It's chilling that that type of evil is roaming the streets.
I just don't understand.
After killing Fahim mid-afternoon, the cameras catch him leaving. The next day, after visiting Home Depot with Fahim's credit card, he returns to dismember his body. Several hours later, he leaves again.
The reason he left the building was because the battery died in the Makita saw, and he had left the charger at his house. So he went back to the Home Depot to purchase another charger so he could continue chopping up the body.
It's when the killer is at Home Depot this second time that Fahim's cousin makes her gruesome discovery.
This is when his cousin comes to the building to try and look for Fahim. It's kind of haunted because she doesn't know what she's going to walk into. He left the apartment around 2 p.m. The cousin had arrived around 3:30 or 3:45.
At the same time that she discovers Fahim's body, the suspect heads back to the apartment.
And then she called 911, and we were there within, minutes. When he returned from the Home Depot, there was already a crime scene set up at the building. Thank goodness the battery had died, because if the cousin had come in to the apartment while he was still doing this, who knows what could have happened. Most likely, he probably would have killed her too.
Evidence reveals that Tyrese had been following his former boss for some time.
It turns out that he was actually stalking him for a while. We noticed that Tyrese would go into a doorway across the street into another building from Fahim's building. He would go right into that doorway inside the building. And we were wondering why. Why would he do something like this? What's inside there? Does he know someone in the building that's helping him with this crime? And we found out that he was interested in an apartment over there. He contacted the real estate agent, had access to a key box, which gave him access to the apartment. And once inside the apartment, we learned that he set up an S-cam to watch the victim across the street in this building to track his movements. That told us a lot, that this guy really planned this out and tried to think of everything. He thought he was smarter than the police, but we know what we're doing, and we don't stop looking for the perpetrator.
The taser manufacturer contacts detectives with details of who bought the weapon, based on the tiny paper identifiers found in the elevator.
I could remember being in my office when the detective had gotten the call from the taser company confirming that it was delivered to Tyrese Haspel at his apartment in Brooklyn. That was the smoking gun. That's the one we needed. It means everything to the case because we can link them to the crime. because we have him on video using the taser that was purchased. There's no way he could dispute that. There's no feeling like it when you get that one evidence that you're looking for that could really tie him to the case. It's something that every detective wants.
With a mountain of evidence against Tyrese, it's time to bring him in. Police track his mobile phone to an apartment he's renting with his girlfriend for $1,000 a night on Fahim's credit card.
After Tyrese had murdered Fahim, what he did was he rented a Airbnb to celebrate his girlfriend's birthday. We have him on video purchasing the balloons for his girlfriend and celebrating her birthday, which is real disturbing.
Police race to the address.
It was July 17th, a Friday morning. Tyrese Haspel was arrested at the Airbnb on Crosby Street that was being rented by Tyrese on Fahim's dime. I took control of Tyrese Haspel. I had brought him up to the second floor of the detective squad and placed him under arrest. I really, really wanted to know what he was going to say. I really wanted him to tell me why he would kill somebody in that manner. But once I read him his rights, he declined to answer any questions and requested an attorney. So at that point, I couldn't ask him anything else.
Fahim's murder generates huge public interest.
There was so much interest around this case that the NYPD held a press conference about it.
At approximately 8:45 this morning, 21-year-old Tyrese Haspel was taken into custody. Mr. Haspel has been charged with murder too, and we are working closely with our partners in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office.
And this is in the middle of COVID. Having press conferences were reserved for the mayor giving his update on infection rates. The fact that the NYPD put this press conference together, it showed that clearly they wanted to let the public know we got the guy.
We walked him out, put him into a transport vehicle to take him to central booking. There was media all over outside here, and they were asking him questions. Why'd you do it? Why'd you do it? Once I got him in the car and I sat next to him, I noticed that his leg started really shaking, like he was really nervous. He was transported to Manhattan Central Booking and then eventually to Rikers Island. The best part was informing the family and letting them know that, look, we have him. He's in our custody, and we're finally going to get justice for Fahim.
Remember hearing an arrest made. I remember getting the notification on my phone. The headline was "Personal Assistant Arrested in Murder of Tech CEO." There was a lot of relief after an arrest was made, not only throughout the city, but in particular in that neighborhood.
Finding out the killer's identity, I think there was a feeling of anger and senselessness to it all. Fahim was such a trusting person, such an open person, and to see that trust betrayed in such a heinous way, it really boils the blood.
Because of the COVID delays, it delayed a lot of the trials in New York. During that time, bail was denied for Tyrese. There was no way they were going to let him out temporarily, even on bail, because of the severity of the crime.
In May 2022, 2 years after Fahim Saleh's brutal death, Tyrese Haspel goes on trial for his murder.
There is probably nothing worse for the victim's family after learning of the death of their loved one to have to sit in a courtroom and see the person that they believe is responsible for his death sit before them 50 feet away and hear again about the brutality that occurred against their loved one.
The prosecutor offered Tyrese 33 and a half years for this crime, and he had the goal to turn it down and go to trial. With all the evidence that we had, I was really surprised that his attorney didn't advise him to take the plea deal that was offered to him. But this is the attitude he had. He still thought he was smarter than everyone else, you know, and he took his chances.
The jury takes less than a day to reach their verdict.
The evidence against Tyrese Haspel in the murder of Fahim Saleh was absolutely overwhelming, from video to forensics to circumstantial evidence to motive. Every single piece of the puzzle pointed directly to this individual being the person responsible for his death.
Tyrese Haspel was found guilty for the murder of Fahim. He was also found guilty for grand larceny, burglary, and he was required to repay the money that he stole from Fahim, and he was eventually sentenced to 40 years to life. To see Tyrese not admit to it, even after he was found guilty, you know, there's got to be a point where you got to make the family feel better by saying, I'm sorry. But he never said, I'm sorry.
I don't think he was remorseful. I think he was just upset that he got caught. He's evil. A terrible person. But somebody like this doesn't deserve to be on the streets.
I don't think he showed any remorse during the trial. He still thought he was smarter than everyone else. But the best part was when he was sentenced at the end, because I was able to stand with the family and see him get justice for what he did. It was very emotional that day. His younger sister was there, his mother and his father. Fahim's father had made a statement. I remember him asking him, why would you kill my son? What was it so bad that he did to you? All he did was help you, you know, and take care of you. It broke my heart, you know.
The motive, it seems, was money.
What really stood out for me was the incredible greed that brought him to commit this just absolutely horrific act.
Tyrese was taking money out of accounts behind Fahim's back to create this ridiculous lifestyle for him and his girlfriend, to the point that he could get her these lavish gifts and throw over-the-top parties for her. He was just living a lie.
I believe that Tyrese realized that he couldn't pay Fahim back all the money that he had stolen from him. So I believe he decided if he killed him, he doesn't have to pay the money back.
Fahim didn't deserve this. He had so much to offer. He had so much left to give the world. And they say it gets easier as the days and years go by. It does not. It does not. Fahim should be remembered as someone who cared, someone who was kind, someone who was driven, someone who wanted to help. He helped these communities whether it was in Bangladesh or Nigeria. He had so much more to offer. We have no idea what he could have done. He could have been on the brink of changing something on a global scale, but we won't find out now.
I don't know how words like closure can really be applied here. All I can really say is one madman was taken off the streets, and we lost a great light in the world. Ultimately, I think Fahim should be remembered as a shining star, a bright light, someone whose aura just radiated infectious positivity. How I try to honor him is just pay it forward and try to just ask, what would Fahim do?